ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of Shalo Glow LLC, an all-natural skincare company that helps you glow from head to toe. I am a champion for your daily self-care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, published author, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Together, we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast grounded in the 8 dimensions of wellness.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations between us and special guests about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. How do we do it all? How do we do this thing?
How do we do it?
In the world we currently live in, right?
Right? 2023. How are you doing this week?
I am well. I am well, but boy, it is a full week. I always, it's kind of like summer break. For some reason, I always think I'm going to get more rest in December than I do. And that's when that's when all you got the showcases, you got to show up, you got and you want to spend more time with family and friends, and you want to lift up the projects you're doing. And I don't know about you, but I want to go to bed.
Yes. Love the pillows, get nice and snuggly. Right? Yeah, some apple cider. Yes.
Dark earlier. It's dark at 5:30.
If you're lucky, right? 4:47. Yeah. Yeah.
How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm grateful. I said last week I was celebrating life, right? And that is what I've been doing. Taking time to work and be productive and rest and take deep breaths and look at next year, and even though we've been getting into social time and celebrating the holidays and uplifting the projects, like you said, also setting the habits for next year. I had a conversation at a Friendsgiving with somebody, and he was talking about how this month he actually uses to set up his habits for the next year. And I said, you know what? I try to think about January, but let me start acting on January. I like that. So I've started setting my pace, and we should be on pace to be 2 weeks ahead next year. So I'm pretty good.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. I think our friend Paul Zelizer over at Awarepreneurs did a podcast on December habits, setting up for the year.
I love it.
So what's one thing you're setting up for yourself?
If I had to say one, I mean, it's hard to pick one because there's so many businesses, right? What came to mind is new logistics because we're reconfiguring the hours, right? So we're talking about the community. I think that's going to be beautiful with the transition of the retail space. We'll see where we are, right? That's still in transition. And then, about the new license as a life and health insurance agent. So that's going to be in the space where project manager was last year, even though we are talking about volume 3. So just the switch over, and now as we set up the systems, the new systems I get to set up. We set up systems this year. That's great. And now how do we fine tune those, right? With the little wrench, fine tune them. And then what are we working on next?
Yeah. Well, I love talking business with you as my business partner. But one thing I really want to know, especially after this year, what self-care system are you setting up for next year? What are you doing to take care of you next year?
So, and we can talk about it, and y'all know if my nails are looking crazy, I say something. So you guys see this, you see this part on my face, right? We'll just be transparent. I wrote about it in our Amazon best-selling book about this acne, right? We had the guest behind stage. We see this, right? So I've been talking about my facial regimen. And in my facial regimen, right, I do the aloe, started doing the aloe facials. We have the chemical facial, the mask, and just staying on rhythm with that. Wherever I am, got a little off rhythm, but it wasn't the mask, girl. This is the crown and the lemon drops and the, it's all the sugar. So it's what you put on your face and what you put in your body. So those non-negotiables, I really think next year is just about more consistency of what I've been doing and watching the logistics change over to the systems that I was talking about. Is really the systems changing, not the consistent habits. And that's what I wrote about in volume 2. So we're still working on both those things, volume 1 topics and volume 2 topics.
Always.
The compound healing, compound interest, all of that, collaborations.
I love
That's what we're building, right? Especially talking about social wellness. And all of these things go into it, right? Whether it's your skin and how you feel that day and how you show up, right? Whether it's your communication and if you are communicating clearly, whether it's your point and doing it with love, how we say, or if you're stumbling over your words like we do sometimes as humans, right? How do all these things go into each other? And for me, when I think about social wellness for this year, it's really been just the continued communication. You know, things are gonna happen. Again, like we just saw, I stumble over my words and I probably do it more than people realize, you know. But I count on people forgetting sometimes because that happens, right? They're not gonna remember. They weren't paying attention to you anyways. And then what do we need to do from here? That's really the biggest thing, you know, when we're dealing with goals, we talk about a lot of big things, a lot of audacious goals, right? Becoming Amazon bestsellers, publishing a book, speaking in public, things that might give people social anxiety. And when we talk to people, what I hear a lot is about the mistake, right? It's not that they think they're going to be perfect, but when you make a mistake, what happens? Is there shame, blame, or guilt? You know, those are the things we look at and we try to let go of and just try again and do it better next time. Or phone a friend. What type of resource do you need? You know, who do you know that can help you in that area? And even if it's like when we were recording the narration for volume 2 and I couldn't say what it was it iteratively correctly, right? And Sino helped me just this is how you say it, and I was able to pronounce it and keep going. So that's what I think about. What comes up for you with social wellness this week?
Well, I think about community. I think about really what was coming to mind is my group at Mercy Care because I was in rehearsal today. Usually I'm not there on Wednesdays because we're doing podcast production and things like this, but
Yes.
we have a showcase tomorrow. And so I was there bright and early this morning. We were doing a rehearsal.
Yeah.
And this is a group of about 12 ladies who are transitioning out of homelessness. And we do interplay twice a month and we do creative expressions. We do art. And this is their first showcase, or what they're doing is they're selling the things they've made to get more supplies for our group, and we're doing some interplay performance with storytelling and movement and voice for them to share some of their stories. And you were talking about making mistakes, right? Because everybody was having nerves. So we were taking deep breaths and shaking it out, and really the joy of doing things in community, that we don't have to do it by ourselves, that
Right.
that we can do it in community. And we really talk about especially when we're sharing our stories, we share out of scars, not wounds,
Mhm.
and really giving permission that we get to show up how we are. I have a new group member who's like, I don't think I can do this. And I'm like, well, okay, which part? And which part do you want to do? Which part do you not want to do?
Right.
Because you get to have your inner authority and choose. And so I was thinking about that as part of social wellness. I was thinking about boundaries and about this time of year can be overwhelming, and that it's okay to have those boundaries. It's okay to say, "No, that's too much," or "I'm tired, I'm gonna go to bed," instead of go to that party, or, that balance of it. Because I think there's a lot of expectations, especially on women this time of year.
And I mean, when we talk about it's okay, not only is it okay, but it's necessary, right? Like there was this time I went to a birthday party and it was a chair dancing class. I wasn't feeling my best. I'm in here coughing and stuff. That's not cute. Stay home. Stay home. We're trying to listen to the music, have a good time, and you just want to make a point because you're not feeling good. No, and even if this friend would have been upset, again, it's worth this person being upset and maybe not understanding. And again, communicating through that if possible and honoring myself and what my body is telling me I need. And then everybody can have a better time. I get the rest. It's a win-win situation. And that's what I like to set up socially.
I love it. Well, let me
Yeah.
share with our listeners our definition of
Let's
social
do it.
wellness. So,
Yes.
we talk about it so much, let's clue people that might be new in on what we're talking
Absolutely.
about. So,
Yes.
social wellness is about the ability to nurture ourselves, others, and our relationship with healthy boundaries. It includes balancing, and we always put that in quote because, that's the mythical balancing
Right?
the other 7 dimensions of wellness and actively participating as an interdependent being in the web of life. That interdependent is sticking out for me today.
And that's where I was. And it was the balance between knowing when to take care of yourself, like we were just talking about,
Mhm.
and then knowing when to pour out into the community. And I think that's the part where we say, "Oh, I'm interdependent." We feel bad for choosing ourselves, but you were a part of the equation, you know? What do you think about when you hear interdependent this week?
I think about doing it in community, that we don't have to do it by ourselves. And, our listeners know this year has just been rough for a lot of different reasons, personally in the world.
Yes.
And the fact that when it is tough, like when you are down from grief and loss or things happening in the world, that when you have that social wellness, people step up and your community, your family, your friends, your business partners. Like I think that's a part of it, right? Is it that that you've got support and
And And I think that's the thing, right? And that's part of what we're talking about today is you would want to have support. What does it look like when you say certain stuff, right?
right,
Like next week, we're having a class, our final class with the authors on this side of the publication of the book about, okay, now you're an Amazon bestseller. Now what?
mhm,
So you would hope that everybody would be thrilled that you're an Amazon bestseller and sold hundreds of thousands of books, but that's not everybody's response all the time. So what do you do with that? You
right,
know? But it's still
right.
your responsibility, like you said, to communicate so that that person knows. That's what I think about.
Well, and I also thinking about, now you've got this book baby.
Mhm.
Our author coming up just celebrated her book baby's one
Yes, she
year,
did.
birthday.
Yeah.
And so, like, what do you do during that as you're nurturing up this book baby? Like,
I wanna see how she helps people because that's part of what she does. I'm excited to have this conversation.
I'm so excited. Will you share her bio so we can bring her up on stage and
Let's do it.
start rocking and rolling?
Yes. Okay, y'all. So today our guest is Lyzette Wanzer. And Lyzette Wanzer is a San Francisco writer, editor, and writing workshop instructor. Her work appears in over 25 literary journals, magazines, books, and newspapers. Library Journal named her book Trauma, Tresses and Truth, Untangling Our Hair Through Personal Narratives, a top 10 best social sciences book. Her articles have appeared in Essay Daily, The Naked Truth, and the San Francisco University High School Journal. Her research interests include professional development for creative writers, Black feminism, critical race theory, and the lyrical essay form. Please help us welcome to the stage Lyzette Wanzer. Hi, Lyzette.
Hi.
Whew. Thank you for making time to talk with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're talking about hair. I love seeing Lock Nation on the podcast, in the videos, in the wellness, all the things.
Mhm.
So when you think about your book, we were just talking about how you celebrated your 1 year anniversary of your book publish publication. Excuse me. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So when you think about the importance of the work in social wellness, what comes up for you?
Oh, I mean, because of the way this book came about, which was from the rage that I was feeling during the summer of 2020, um, I actually started working on this book project as a method of healing and as a way of metabolizing all of the rage that I was feeling because I was, it wasn't just anger. It was rage. And so I was not eating. Um, I lost weight. I couldn't work. Um, People noticed that I had lost my edge at work. Um, and it was difficult to sleep. I was going to bed angry. I was waking up angry. So after several weeks of that, I said, this level of cortisol in your bloodstream is not healthy for you, and there's no way you can. It's not sustainable. You have to find a way to metabolize it.
Yes.
And I thought about, well, what's going on this summer in the wake of the Breonna Taylor and George Floyd assassinations
Yeah.
is policing and persecution of the Black body. And I thought about Black women's natural hair, and I said, well, that's another form of persecution and policing of the Black body. Maybe I can do something with that. And so just working on the book proposal that July was really helpful for me. It gave me something to focus on, and I could pour my rage into that project. And that project came from a conference I had done back in March where I had done a panel called Trauma, Tresses and Truth. But this was in March of 2020, so just before the pandemic lockdown started.
Wow.
And before all the demonstrations and protests started, before Breonna and George. So when that happened, Breonna and George, I went back to that conference and remembered all the women who had come up to me at the end of our panel and said, well, where is the book? I don't see you selling it up here. Is that because you've got it down in the book fair? And of course, there was no book. And I didn't think their idea had any legs as a book. All I wanted was to get a panel accepted to this, prestigious conference. As far as I was done, the goal was over. But when this happened in the summer of 2020, I did come back to that. I said, that was a lot of people that came up to you afterwards looking for this book. So it was really a way of me taking care of myself and finding a way to process all of the emotions, all of the rage, all of the anger, the grief that came out of that summer. And then when the proposal was done, I said, okay, well, I've done a proposal. I do feel better. But since you finished it, you may as well go ahead and shop it around. So I did do that. Just as the finishing touch on that proposal, I really didn't expect any takers because it's kind of a controversial subject. But then by the end of September, I had 4 publishing offers, which probably wouldn't have happened 2019, and it wouldn't have happened in 2021. It happened then because everyone, including the publishing industry, was hopping on that bandwagon of, we stand with Black Lives Matter and we're against anti-Asian hate, and we are going to diversify our roles and our reviewers and our readers and so on. And everyone had these platitudes, plastered all over their websites. So I think that people of color in general, that fall, their work was getting a closer read.
I hear you.
Yeah.
And thank you for channeling your rage in such a healthy way, right? Rage, it was interesting when you said that, like, maybe that's what it was. The mode, and I call it fire, right? Naruto calls it the will of fire. And it's like the energy of being so upset that women are not connected to the resources. I'm tired of it. Like, we're literally dying. This is life threatening. This is not just, oh, you like green or yellow. No, like, she's not here anymore. And we have a list of people. Like, it's crazy, So when we talk about our hair, you're talking about, oh, if you have cancer, go here, go here. What do you mean? After it was a mandatory stipulation of the job to get hair perm to pay for it, so I paid to get sick. Is how you see what I'm saying, to then have the ripples across everybody.
Yes.
So that's what I think about when I think about women connected in wisdom. And I'm so tired of us not being connected to the resource. Let's connect as many people as possible in as many different dimensions as possible, and even being an agent, I want us to be covered on the other side. So if something does happen, at least we can have the time to grieve and know that things are in place, instead of also now we have another mountain to go up and figure all this stuff out, So thank you for channeling it in a healthy way. And what about the anthology? So did you come across these other stories because they were ladies who had come up to you, or you knew that this is not just my story, I want to include other women in the voice when I publish the book?
Okay, so here's the thing. I was going to just write the book because I had already published an essay on this topic about my personal experiences with natural hair. But as I leaned into the book proposal, I thought it's going to be too easy for people to say, well, that's Lyzette's experience.
Right.
because I heard so often during that summer that, well, we're post-racial now. I don't see race. I don't know why any of this matters. Why do you have to bring race into it? Blah, blah, blah. So I thought, I don't want to make it easy for people to say, well, this is Lyzette's particular experience only, because I know it's universal. So that's why I thought it'll be the more intelligent approach would be to make it an anthology, so that there would be the voices of other women, and they could, then you can see how universal a problem this is. And I had people coming up and saying, "Oh, this must be new," and I'm like, "It's not a new problem.
No.
It's not new at all. Not at all." So I wanted both African American and Afro Latina women in this one, and I think we've got 4 generations of women as well. And that was important too, because no, it's not new.
Right.
And no, it's not just me.
It's not.
And, I wanted people from across the country. I needed a broad geographic range because I didn't want people to say, well, it's only this part of the country. No, it's not. And some of the women, some of the Afro-Latina women in particular, come from Brazil and Puerto Rico, where this is a problem as well. So I think the anthology was the smart way to go.
Absolutely. Yes.
The thing that bubbles up for me, Lyzette, Shannon said thank you, but I wanted to say thank you too, because I heard you about the timing on it. But what I really appreciate is you've been doing that work for years. And so it wasn't somebody that jumped on the bandwagon to, this is your work. Mm-hmm. This is what you've been doing. And to have that work uplifted, I'm glad that it was good timing for you, because so often that doesn't happen, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is yay. Congrats on that.
And I have to say, I don't believe in coincidence either.
And that's what I was about to say. Everything is strategically orchestrated, right? And that's what I'm thinking about. I haven't decided what I'm writing on volume 3, but it might be strategically orchestrated. Mm-hmm. And so I hear you with the realistic, this is the environment, right? Based on what I see, I don't think it would have worked. And it wouldn't have worked here. Yeah. And but the thing, it did work though, Lyzette. It did work. You see what I'm saying? You got a whole group of women. And especially when I think about buying pattern, I learned that all you need is 3 people. So if you had so many women, if you had more than 3, you had a buying pattern. You know what I mean? And socially, that's what we do. We count ourselves out, and we're conditioned to do so, even down to the hair on our head. Little girl being told that the curls in the back of my head are too BDBs, but then when I go natural, it's my hair is curly. Did you think it was straight? What are we talking about? And just the gap that sometimes it can produce, is what I love about Women Connected in Wisdom, and bringing people back to themselves. Like, you're amazing. It doesn't matter what they say. I get, we have to know what they say. We're operating in these environments, right? But then how do you stand on your own authority? So I wanted to give a little more space for the added layer that you were sharing with before the call, that the Afro-Latino authors deal with. Can you explain that a little bit more when you say an added layer on top of it?
So Afro-Latinas in this country still are being forced to choose. What are you? Are you Latina or are you African American? And, the surveys and forms and the boxes you check are starting to get a little smarter with that, allowing people to check more than one box, or say multiracial or whatever. But they have that to deal with already. And sometimes within their families, they may be the only one with dark skin in their biological families.
Right.
Or they may be the only one whose hair is a little kinkier and curlier than other members of their family. And so that whole business of, why are you Afro-Latina, but you don't speak Spanish? Mm-hmm. You're not really Latina. You must just be Black. And then you can twist that, the other way as well. And then you've got the intrafamilial, which we all have, but you have the intrafamilial, I don't want to say persecution, but issues. There's the one story in here, the one essay where the author, when she was graduating from college, her mother showed up with a wig for her to wear for her graduation pictures. And she had gone natural while she was away at school. And her parents said, well, either you wear this wig or we're not paying for graduation pictures. Well, graduation pictures are really expensive, right? They're not cheap. So she kind of compromised. So they took, believe it or not, one set of pictures with the wig on. Those photos went to the elder generation. And then they took another set of photos with her wearing her natural. And that was for everyone else. There are stories in here where someone came in, they did their interview with a flat iron, maybe. Okay. And then after 2 weeks in the new job, they came in natural. And there would be other Black women coming up to them and saying, well, when are you going to get your hair done? It is done. It was done already. And so they just have an added layer. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from their stories. But I wanted to include them because I haven't seen them included in other hair story books. And I produce a conference also called Trauma, Tresses and Truth. It's a virtual conference. And I hear a lot of Afro-Latinas saying, thank you so much for including us.
Yes.
And, offering sessions that are in Spanish at this conference as well. And having panels that are specifically about Afro-Latinas wrestling with the concept of pelo malo and, bad hair versus good hair. And the other colorism and texturism struggles that they face, and that we all face, but they have just an extra layer to it.
Before we jump forward, when is that conference usually?
Well, it just happened this past August, 2023. So the first time I did it was August 2021. And I didn't have funding in 2022. However, I will be doing one next summer.
Oh, yeah.
Exciting.
Yes. Be sure and tag us on our socials and we'll share that with folks.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
Yes. But I hear what you're saying. And it's interesting. We had an event at what is the name of the place, Christine, that Carolyn Renee was? The Exchange in East Point. What is it called?
Oh, the Arts Exchange.
The Arts Exchange, right? And so, Lyzette, in this Arts Exchange building, there was a museum, right? And so me and my partner in there saw this piece of artwork that was talking about separated families. And what I didn't realize is how many people feel like that, right? Yeah. That in their family, I'm the one that's like this. It's so many people. It's actually a lot of people in the United States when we talk about the way that this happens, right? Maybe different skin tones in the family and different hair textures, different positions. We could talk about stepchildren, right? We could talk about in the Black community and other communities, right? Families being separated. And so what that does to families leaves a lot of people like this. And so that's why when we have this whole underdog story, for lack of a better term, right? Everybody's like, yes, because that's like all of us. It's like, I wasn't supposed to be this amazing, right? Which is why I wanted to go back to it wouldn't have worked here. It wouldn't have worked here, but here it worked because that's when it was supposed to happen. Lyzette, that's why you're however many days old you are today, because in this little gap of time, you were supposed to slide in here, you and all these ladies, you know what I mean? So, that's kind of how I try to live and sit in my power with my locks, as a millennial with 3 businesses. And we're talking about business schools that won't let me come to the school. I'm not trying to go to school. I'm trying to start a business. You know what I mean? Like, I know I need to learn things, but we're taking the root of it and the important things, and we're making the point something else, which is why I love that this is the work that you're doing, giving people their voice and honoring their stories, right? Not giving them their voice, but allowing a space for it to be heard. Because however your curl curls, it's going to curl. And guess what? There's so much more to you as a person, and all of that should be celebrated no matter what time it is, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So I want to talk more about how you help people tell their stories, and this personal development that you walk authors through, because I know we do it, but I'm interested in hearing it from your perspective with the different ways that you've worked with this subject.
Hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Shayla Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Shayla Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about 3 groups really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all 3 steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off. The oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. You know, the story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade, and it smells great, y'all. So
yes,
yay.
esthetician tested. Yes, esthetician tested and approved. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, you know, I work with individual coaching clients, I work in community classes, and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength-based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. You know, especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes.
So last year, or actually, no, it was this year. It was spring of this year. I started teaching a writing our hair workshop, and it's for Afro-Latina, or actually, it's for multiracial women of the African diaspora, and Black women to come and attend a workshop where they can write their hair stories. So they do not have to be like professional writers or have a degree in literature or anything like that. It's for anyone who wants to come in and write. So I did the first one back in, I think it was March or April, at the African American Center at our public library here in San Francisco.
Beautiful.
And now I want to offer it again and use it as a new fellowship. I just got funding for it. It's going to be called, I think it's going to be called Muse and Melanin.
Oh, I like it.
And
I like it.
It will be an 8-month fellowship for women of the African diaspora who are writing maybe as a hobby, but they're interested in becoming professional authors. And so there's a section of that is an intensive writing workshop, but there's also a section that goes into professional development. So how do I curate my social media presence to look like a professional author or a writer who can be taken seriously? How do I produce and create a professional literary CV? That's industry standard. How do I write my author bio? How do I write my author statement? How do I apply for funding to support time off so I can focus on a project? So where do I look for grants? Where do I look for fellowships? How do I apply to and get accepted to a residency where I can go away for, 2 weeks or a year, and have it funded, and so I can focus on my work and still pay the bills back at home and so on. So it's the general professional development that I teach, but this one is specifically for BIPOC writers. And specifically, African diaspora women writers. So the resources that I share and all of the strategies and tools are specifically for us and how to negotiate the hashtag publishing so white industry that we're in. Because there are some things that we need to do differently to position ourselves as viable authors in the publishing industry.
So what would you say are the differences?
Oh, you went there.
I mean, I need to know. I'm a publisher. Educate me, Lyzette.
Well, one thing you have to do is shape the agent or the publisher's lens when they're reading your book proposal. That's your opportunity to tell them what shelf you should be on. Okay, because if you don't shape that lens and if you don't tell them what shelf to be on, we all know where these books will be shelved. And that may not be the right place for your book. Mm-hmm. When I first started writing, when I was in my 20s, I used my initials, L.E. Wanzer. And I would send my work in, and then people would accept it. A journal would accept it and say, can you just send us a bio and a photo? And they would get it and then say, oh, we didn't know you were a woman. And oh, we didn't know you were Black. We can't tell from this writing that you sent that you're Black. And I'm like, well, why does that matter? It matters for some stories, but not all. So here's your chance at the outset, out of the gate. And this is good. That way you don't get into a relationship with a press that wants to market you one way after you've already signed the contract and you want to be marketed a different way. So do it in the book proposal. And tell them where, like for myself, I knew they were going to throw this onto like the African American section of every bookstore. It can go there, but it also can go women's books, even women's history. It can go
social sciences
and social sciences, which is how Library Journal saw it. Cultural affairs. There are so many other places that this book can be shelved.
HR.
And this is your chance to. We have to do that. I feel
that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's just one of many strategies that we will cover.
I love it. And it's important to have that support. It's so interesting when we talk to our cohorts, no matter if they're in their 80s, if they're in their 20s, everybody's like, does my voice fit? So for somebody to be able to really tell you how it fits and even how to make it more confident, or this is what you do to make it more strategic, like you've been saying, that's really important. So
and also how to work strategically with your publisher, especially if it's a white publishing house, during the editorial process, because there will be some misunderstandings and you'll have to do some education.
We've already had to do that with our team, Lyzette, because, we have.
You know what I'm talking about.
You know exactly what you're talking about, because, voice is important. Like voice and story is important and words are important. And boy, we are all trained. It doesn't matter if you were raised, like we're trained that one voice is professional and one voice, and it's like, and that can totally change a story. Like we had to stand up for a couple of our authors with our editing team because we're like, you're taking her voice out. He's like, well, it's supposed to be that. We're like, no. Like, and it is a conversation and it's an education and it's also an awareness of the white patriarchal lens that we are in. And that if we're not aware of that lens, then that's how we measure everything. And so making sure that we don't come from there. I wanted to also lift up what you said about using your initials. And we have this conversation often on this show about, why it's important that we're having these discussions, because women authors in our generation were not published because they were women. And people think, oh, we're like when you said, oh, I don't see we're over that. You're like, what? Where are you been? Because this is still happening, y'all. And you had the double whammy. And it's like, this is why I think these conversations are so important, because if people haven't experienced it or know somebody close to them that's experienced it, I think, oh, that doesn't happen, or that's not real. That's all taken care of now.
Yes, it's in the past. That's not the case anymore. I don't see race. I wasn't raised that way. Everything offends everybody nowadays. I can
And
go.
if these and all of these things, right, are very real things that we can have individual conversations about, right? But sometimes people feel like this is the part where they get lost and they're like, well, why is it even so important? Like, it doesn't, but but we're not, because when we look at the fact that we're talking about, if I have locks, I can't get this job. This is minimizing my income for my lifetime, because a lot of people are not business owners, right? So it's affecting my employment. That affects the trajectory of my family. And so if reparations haven't came yet, I haven't seen any 2024 updates, right? Then we can say that, okay, Christine and I can sit on this podcast and nobody's trying to rip us out of our chairs, but there's still differences and things that affect it, And so even with laws being passed, like we were talking about in Texas with Daryl George, right? It was passed, the law was passed, and we're still dealing with the situation. And so we have to make sure that
listeners, Shannon, because we're talking about this pre-podcast. So
Thank
what
you.
we're talking about is the Crown Act.
Yes.
Liz, you want to tell folks, because this is your expertise, you want to tell folks about the Crown Act?
Sure. So I'm in California, which was the first state to pass the Crown Act. So Crown is an acronym. It stands for Create a Respectful and Open World or Workplace for Natural Hair. And it also is a synonym for crown, literally. The hair on our heads is our crown. And so it's a piece of legislation that protects against discrimination in the workplace and educational settings, and any place else, against people who want to wear, not just women, people who want to wear a natural hairstyle. So Bantu knots, afros, dreadlocks, braids of any kind, whatever. And we passed it. Then New York was second. And Texas is the most recent state. And I think we're up to about 24 states or so. When the book went to press, we were only up to 14 states. So Texas is most recent, and now this case has come up with young Daryl George, a high school student, and his mother is appealing to the Crown Act that just got passed, and they're saying it doesn't apply here. So to me, that means, okay, Governor Abbott, you passed this. Your passing of this legislation was performative. You didn't really mean it, because I was shocked that Texas would with all the book banning and stuff going on down there and what teachers cannot teach down there. I was surprised that they passed the Crown Act. Well, it looks like it's, in name only.
Right. So, Lyzette, I'm originally from Texas. I've been in Georgia about 15 years, but I was too. And then I was not surprised that it was performative, especially what the politics have been in that state recently. In Georgia, I want to report our House passed it, but it did not pass the Senate. It was reintroduced in the Senate. But we are still a Republican-led House and Senate. And, even though Georgia went blue in the last presidential election, we're still wrestling with all of this stuff, which is so shocking with who we are in Atlanta, in our culture, and who we are in the nation of civil rights, right? That we can't get this passed out of our, come on, y'all. That's ridiculous.
Well, also at the federal level, because, the national level where Cory Booker keeps reintroducing it, it also keeps tanking in the Senate.
Can I just say I love me some Cory Booker? Can we just have a pause? Like, y'all, I've met him. I've taken a picture with him. I just I like fangirl Cory Booker. Like his daily runs and his inspiration. Cory, you go, Cory. Okay, back to our program. Sorry.
So when we think about all of the things that we deal with, right? With our hair, with the professional striving that we have, right? What advice would you give somebody who wants to go natural or who is natural that's struggling with that?
You need to make sure that you're really ready to take the leap. It's a journey, and it's not without, I don't want to say consequences, but it's not without trials and tribulations. So make sure that you're doing something that's safe for you. I also I wish I had gotten this more into the book, but there's a certain privilege that I have being able to make this decision because I already have had a very established career in corporate America, and I have an advanced degree, but I'm thinking about women who work in blue collar jobs who may not have the same type of resources available to them. They need a paycheck. And so if it's going to really endanger your job, your income, or put you in an antagonistic position with your job, think especially hard about it. I hate to say that, but protect your income and protect your job until you're in a position where you can afford to take a risk and afford to be subversive and feel you're in a position where you can push back. The Crown Act will help, but still be careful because there is a certain privilege that comes with saying, well, I don't care what they say, I'm going to go natural anyway. And I can absorb that, but not everybody's in a position to be able to do that. So there's that. If you are in a position to do it, just know that, there are going to be some comments and a lot of them will be ignorant. Some of them will come from other Black women. So be prepared for that. If you're going to do dreadlocks, especially be prepared for everyone to assume you're Rastafarian, everyone to assume that you smoke. And what has my hair been called? Be prepared to argue with white folks about the fact that these are braids and not dreadlocks. And they will argue with you about it.
Oh.
Okay.
They will.
I can actually
I'm so sorry, Lyzette.
Yeah. I know.
I know. Wow.
Be prepared for that.
Yeah.
My hair has been called snakes, ropes, and people will say this to you as a compliment. So be prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just have people stop commenting on other people's bodies? Like, I don't know why people think that's okay.
Or touching without permission. Be prepared for that for sure. Any natural style. Be prepared for people to just come up.
Yeah.
And,
That's a no. If you're listening to our podcast and you really think that's okay, you need to call us and we'll have a conversation. But that's an excellent. You do not touch other people's bodies without consent. And if you are a white person, we especially do not touch people of color's hair without consent. Like, that is not okay. And if you ask, I'll tell this story on myself, y'all. So my niece is biracial. And she was younger, and I said, "Oh, baby girl, let me do your hair." She's like, "Oh, hey, Christine, you are not touching my hair, no." And I, of course, respected that, right? My feelings were a little hurt, but she's like, "Oh no, you are not touching my hair." And I was wanting to help her braid it, and you have to respect that, even if they're related to you, even if you feel like, come on, y'all. I mean, that should be just straight across the board. Like, this is 101 humanity and respect.
And that's where I go to when we talk about this though, right? Is because, well, why is it not normal for us to think about it as professional, right? Where did that come from? Where do these feelings come from? And it makes sense when, just like I was a server, we're used to me serving Christine instead of me being her business partner. Well, okay, we have to unpack that, you know. But now when, again, it's not about what my name is or anything like that. If it's about the writing and the writing is beautiful, then let it speak for itself. It's about, if it's about business and the United States being as strong as possible and everybody being as healthy as possible, then let's make it about effective business that gives healthy work environments and can do all these things that the people need to do so the people can uplift the nation, you know, and that's the important part of it. So I appreciate the work that you do, Lyzette. Just again, giving space for the stories, but also letting us celebrate. I love telling my hair story about how I went natural and shaved all my hair off and should have went shorter and grew my locks out and all the whole journey of it, you know? And when I think about it, guess what I don't think about? Work. I don't think about other people. I think about myself, what I want to do with how do I want to do my hair? You know, what's most convenient? What makes sense? One of our volume 1 authors, Laurel Ann Stark, was talking about the beauty expense, right? Of beauty labor, $250,000 in a lifetime. So what it also is not only us getting sick and dying. So you're raising the morbidity and the mortality rate in the community, minimizing the financial income and the cash flow and the financial trajectory of the family. But it's also an added, I mean, we already talked about the added expense, but it's an added expense on top of that without the reparations.
I think about too, y'all.
You think about what?
I think about the time.
Oh, of course.
How much my friends of color spend, like the time, their hair, like it is incredible. This industry,
because it's not natural. Won't take time.
It is incredible.
Yeah.
Like how much the capitalism has affected us also. You know, the intersection of capitalism and racism and where this sits.
Yeah. So I think about here, I think about celebrating the differences, right? Oh, I love these curls, love those curls, and they look different and they can all be celebrated. And just like wellness, it's not about always starting from the same place, but what do you need right now? You know, what do you need to be most healthy? That's what I think about. I don't think about people thinking I'm Rastafarian or from different places, but it's the, oh, you went and paid to get your hair. You don't love yourself. It's not about that. Whatever you need to do, right? If you need to provide for your 3 children, please keep your job. Don't go in there talking about Christine said XYZ and you don't know Christine and the government is not answering the phone. Okay. They haven't been answering phones since COVID. So you're going to be fired and trying to get an answer. Okay. It makes sense. Yeah. But to be able to honor it and find a place of love so you can come, we're talking about women coming back to their bodies. You know, this could be a safe place and not somewhere where everybody else has authority. And when I try to speak, nothing is heard or seen and you never know me and I fade into oblivion. And no, we're not going to do that.
I also just want to say that, yes, this is a book about women.
Yes.
But men have this problem as well. They have this problem as well. And I met a man when I was on book tour in Minneapolis, and he has developed this sixth sense. He wears dreadlocks where he can actually sense somebody coming up behind him right before they put their hand in his hair. And he said he was at the grocery store the other day and he was in the produce section and he just felt like this tingling on the back of his neck. He turned around. He said it was this elderly white gentleman with his hair this close to his head. This close to his head.
And now, mind you, even historically, like you talk about the police being threatened. Why would I not feel immediately threatened? You know, when somebody's trying to grab me from behind, what? I turn around? That's crazy.
Why would you do that? You don't even know this person, though.
Right? And that people feel like they have the right to do that.
Yes.
It's just not okay, y'all. It's not okay.
And so the more we have conversations like this, you know, the more conversations that we're talking about uplifting the voices, Lyzette, the more voices you hear, the more often you're used to seeing it, the more that you're used to me and Christine being business partners and not me. And I'm an amazing server, you know, but I'm not a server anymore. So the more you get used to that, it's like, okay, well, now this is what we're used to seeing, you know? So no matter how difficult it is, I say, we got to keep the fight up to continue to be ourselves and make space for what that looks like. Even when you look at the generations, we're not that far from all of this stuff. So it makes sense. We need more more images, more examples, more rebuilt Black businesses, more collaboration, more intentional conversations, so that when we get to these conversations, we know what to do to make sure we get what we need and we're still operating in a healthy way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Now, Lyzette, I put up on for anybody that's watching the replay or with us, I put up your website, but I want to say it out loud. So, is this a place for people to sign up for the classes you were talking about, and your next journey that you're going on?
Yes. So there's a workshops tab there. If you want to know about upcoming classes, I think the first several classes of 2024 are already posted. There's an appearances tab if you just want to know where I'm going to be speaking or visiting next.
Nice.
And there are a couple of other tabs where you can learn about me. There's a press kit there, and some of my favorite authors.
Events, right?
I'm sorry?
You can be hired for speaking events?
Yeah, that's right.
So, y'all, we're going to put this in our show notes, but it's LyzetteWanzerMFA.com. And so we'll put a live link in our show notes, but also if you want to look her up, find out what's going on. We're not done yet because we have a couple of things to close, but I keep thinking about this, Lyzette, so I want to bring it up. I can't remember what episode she was on, but Shannon, when Lyzette came on and she's from San Francisco, do you know Kelsey Blackwell, who wrote Decolonizing the Body?
No, I've seen that book around, but I do not know her.
Because she's San Francisco also. And so we'll get y'all connected.
So good.
With Women Connected Wisdom. We like resources and we like connecting people. And I was just thinking about the work that y'all are doing in the world. And
that's good.
Yeah. Right?
Yes. For the conferences and everything like that. Yeah. That's going to be a good connection.
I also want to connect you with Tamika Ellington. Do you know her?
No.
And her book just came out this past July on National Crown Day, which is July 3rd.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Black Hair in a White World.
Congratulations, Tamika.
Right.
Okay. Tamika Ellington. Got it.
I was able to recruit her for my conference this past summer as well. So.
Mm-hmm. And congratulations on being funded and everything. I did get to say that earlier. So every week, Lyzette, we do a wisdom in action. And this is something that we are implementing, right, for ourselves. So this is personal self-care in the dimension that we're talking about. So social wellness. What are you doing for yourself this week?
This week, I'm making sure that I do start every morning with a workout. Now, sometimes it'll be, something heavy duty like running on a treadmill or Tae Bo, but it can also be like I've done 2 days in a row of Pilates. And that's wonderful. I also want to make sure I get my full 4 meditation sessions in, because sometimes I think of that as an extracurricular, and it's really not. It's really, really not. And making sure I get enough sleep. I feel so much better when I get enough sleep. And I want to do that not just this week, but this month, because it's a hectic month with the holidays and everything. And yes, you look forward to it, but you also dread it. Yes. And I'm determined to stay sane and make sure that I have a downtime for myself. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I like to be really specific with the action, right? So I'm going to ask a few questions because this sounds like physical wellness. And even though they intersect, is it social wellness because you're saying I'm intentionally carving out my time for myself, my non-negotiables, or is it you intentionally like blocking your time and you weren't doing that socially, so you need to do it? What? Okay.
Yes. And I'm going to uplift Kaleshi Ubozo, who's a contributor in the book. Yes. And I love what she's doing. I want to do this starting 2024, where she takes time off from social media and she'll put it in her away messages that says, I am taking a break. I love you. Your message is important to me, but I am taking a social media break from this date to that date, and I will get back to you after that. And she does that multiple times per year. And I love that. And I want to start implementing that in 2024.
I love it. And you said Kaleshi
Ubozo.
Kaleshi. Thank you, Kaleshi Ubozo.
Yeah, she's in the book.
Bless you. I think I'm gonna implement it and we do
Yeah.
that. And so that's how about that's my hashtag. Hashtag plan for rest. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think about it when we talk about emails, but social media is interesting and it's effective and we're going to work even more on social media next year if we didn't do it enough this year, So I think intentionally communicating will be really good. I like that. What about you, Christine?
For my wisdom in action this week, one of my besties is moving to California. She's moving to Sunnyvale. So my
Oh.
wellness is to go walking with her. So like it's, she's in here for 9 more days. So my social wellness is going to be, what is it going to be? Hashtag, I was gonna say something like have a good goodbye, but that sounds like she's dying, and she's not dying. She's just moving to California.
Right. I hear you. Hey, 2023 has been a long year, so no, it's not how we're saying goodbye this one. No.
Right. So hashtag hang out with friends.
I
I think
like it.
that's what it's gonna be. And
Hang out with friends.
hang out with friends.
It's
Yeah.
so important.
I have to say, Lyzette, before Shannon says her wisdom in action, I have not heard Tybo in years. I used to be a fanatic about Tybo. So I would have to pull out some VHS tapes and do a little Billy Bates like
Well, they're on DVD now.
right?
I've got the DVDs. Yeah.
But she has the VHS downstairs, right?
Oh.
What were we saying, Christine?
I was just saying I bet I could stream it. That's fun. Or YouTube it. Shannon, what about you? What's your wisdom in action this week?
Mine is the plan for rest.
Oh, that's right. You did.
We're gonna look at the logistics.
So
I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it, but I think that's enough, because we talked about the shift in logistics. And so I shared with the listeners about changing over the things that we're doing. We're actively working on the SMART goals, right? But in that, and again, shared about it in volume 2, planning the rest in there too. Not just the facials, but the social media, the emails, so that it's sustainable. I could do better. Yeah.
I love it.
Lyzette, was there anything else that we can lift up about your work that you wanted to tie in before we jump today?
I just want to mention that the whole hair business, while I was working on this book, I heard from East Indian women and quite a few Native American men who all said that this is a problem for them as well. And they were actually asking if they could get into this book, but it was too far along by then. But I'm thinking of a book too where I do include those voices because Native American men are still being discriminated in their employment. Even if they wear their hair in a nice, neat braid down their back, they're being told that it has to be cut.
Beautiful.
And, they can't. It's their tribal, for some of them, if you cut your hair, you're cutting your life power. And they're respecting their culture. And so I don't understand what that's got to do with being able to do their jobs. But it's still going on. And people come up and touch their hair as well, apparently, and ask if it's real. I never even knew that was going on. And then I learned about Jewish hair from white women who said, I know this is a women of color book, but I'm the only one in my family who has this Jewish hair. I had to research that.
It sounds like anything that's big, anything with volume and curls is and what I love about being an author is that now there's royalties and like you said, speaking engagements and different things we can do to supplement everything that we're doing else professionally. What are you going to say, Christine?
I was just going to lift up what you were saying is so true. And I was just reading an article this month. It recently happened to an elder I think he was in the Lakota tribe. He was in the hospital and his hair was cut without permission while he was in the hospital. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this was like just a couple of weeks ago because they were having a big protest and saying apologize. And, so he was incapacitated and they cut his hair. Yeah. So, I mean, this is real, y'all. Like, this is just not okay. It's not okay to not have autonomy over our bodies. And I mean, we could have a whole nother podcast about that, about women's issues in the United States right now. But I know we're at time. But thank you for your work, Lyzette. Thank you for lifting this up. Thank you for beautiful writing and your, this is good.
And yes to a volume 2. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Talk soon.
We're so grateful to be connected. Woo! Powerful conversation.
Wow. I'm so glad that we have conversations around wellness. You know, I know that we do a good job at looking at all the details, but something like that, I can't imagine believing that cutting my hair is cutting my life. And I go into the hospital, supposed to help my life, and my life is cut. I mean, I can't, that's what we're talking about, you know, but that's unfortunate. So glad to be lifting up the work of making it a better place for situations like that. Because no, it's not okay. Yeah.
And, you know, we need to just have, like you said, we need to keep having these conversations because this stuff is still happening. It is. And the law changing. Like I was thinking as we prepped for this show, I was like, I haven't done any advocacy around this in Georgia. And there's things we can do because we're local that we can show up and talk to our legislatures and say, this needs to happen. Or when they introduce the bill, give our comments and things like that.
And I was thinking about you earlier when I was posting about voting for the Atlanta public schools, and shout out to Alfred Brooks who won, right? Teacher on the public school board, very important. But I think you do this, right? Because outside of being a politician yourself, Christine, you're not going to be individually involved in, right? And so the way I see you supporting it is by lifting up marginalized voices and by helping us become Amazon bestseller authors and publishers and narrators. Again, you're adding to those things we were talking about, adding to the financial wellness, adding to the social wellness, so that even I can choose to wear locks and I'm not somewhere else doing something else with other people.
Yeah. I hear you. And it doesn't cost me anything to pick up my phone and call my legislators.
Well, as your business partner, though, that's your time on your schedule, right? And so everybody has their fight.
Years not to do that, right? And to teach other people how to do it, because we're not in session right now. But I was just that's going on my list because that needs to happen for Georgia and Atlanta. And yes, to the public school board, but did you also see it was less than 13% of people got out and voted for that?
I saw
that was not okay, folks. Like, that is, local elections are so important. Like, it makes a difference on things like this. It makes a difference on who's making decision for our kids. And so whoo, don't get me started. We're out of time.
No, I love it. And I had the Crown Act on my LinkedIn, so, and once it was good, I think it was Dove that I had, I muted it off the LinkedIn. So thank you for always putting in the work where you see that you have the capacity to. And that's why I'm happy to be here with you. Happy to continue having 140 more of these conversations since we're on episode 140.
Right?
Yes.
Oh, anything we need to lift up before we close out episode 140?
I don't think so.
Going on this weekend?
Not this weekend, maybe next weekend. We're trying to decide what we want to do for December Glow Club. So I'll keep everybody updated and see what type of event it is. Again, we're working on those logistics, but this weekend, just stay tuned. We have volume 2 that's still available. Our ladies are putting out some great resources, some new books on those lists too. So I would just say it's the end of the year, right? We know that 2023 has been really long, and next week, this is what we do need to tell them, is the last week we are with you live, right? So plug into the resources, plug into everything that you said. You know what? This is a really good point. Lyzette said this. I want to make sure to do it. Have you done it? Right? Did you follow up? Did you follow up on what you put in your planner, the resources that you have tabbed? So just get plugged in and join us here live next week to wrap up the year.
I love it.
Yes.
This weekend, if you are local and in Atlanta, for Interplay Atlanta, I am having a life practice information session at noon at the Mask Center. And I'll put that link in our show notes if you want to join us, because we'll be kicking off that program next year for, getting together every other month for some interplay and using the tools and resources in our lives and building community that way. So
important.
Good stuff, my friend.
Yes. Okay, guys, we'll be here live at 5 next week. In the meantime, don't forget,
be well,
be wise, and be whole. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.